Hey, what's up guys? Jaeky here. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Kiwi Orchestra Lite IEMs, mainly for gaming. This is going to be from a gaming perspective, coming from a top 400 Radiant player in Valorant. I'm not really going to touch too much on the audio file side, but I will talk about it a little bit. The main focus of this video is going to be these IEMs and how they perform for competitive gaming and for tac shooters like Valorant. So let's start with all of the accessories. This is the box that it came in. Inside of the box, you get your IEMs, and then under that, you get a little carrying case. Nothing too crazy. It is a decent carrying case, though. Inside the carrying case, you will get your cable with a bunch of different tips that you can use. So you have these white tips, these black tips, these gray tips with a red stem. I actually don't recommend using any of the pre-provided tips, and the reason for that is because the Kiwi Orchestra Lite is a non-vented IEM. And basically what that means is that this entire shell is made out of resin and there's no vent whatsoever. It's just a solid piece of resin. So what happens is if you use traditional tips with the Kiwi Orchestra Lite, you'll notice a lot of pressure buildup inside of your ear. And that makes these IEMs pretty uncomfortable to wear over a long period of time. And I found myself just like getting really annoyed with all of the pressure buildup. I tried using spin fits on these, and I also used the stock tips as well, and there was a lot of pressure buildup. But I highly recommend getting these tips right here. These are called the Tangzu balance tips, I believe. I'll leave a picture of them on the screen right now, but I got these from AliExpress. They were pretty cheap and they arrived pretty fast as well. You can see that these tips have sort of like a texture on them, which helps relieve the pressure. And so after I put these tips on, there was no pressure whatsoever wearing these IEMs. So if you're going to get a non-vented IEM, I highly recommend checking out these tips. They come in 3 different sizes. I have the mediums on right now. These are the larges, the blue ones, and then the small right here is yellow. So yeah, these tips made this IEM a lot better to wear. Getting into the design of the IEM, these are probably one of the most beautiful IEMs I have ever laid my eyes on. I got these in the purple colorway, and also just a disclaimer, these were not sent out for review. I actually bought these with my own money, and they were on sale for a little bit on the Canadian Amazon website, which is why I ended up picking them up in the first place, because they were on a really good sale. So I grabbed them in the purple color, and they look absolutely incredible. There's a bunch of different colorways. There's blue, green, orange, clear, purple, just a lot of different colorways, but the purple ones here look incredible, as you can see. The stock cable is pretty flexible. Nothing wrong with the stock cable at all. I don't really see a reason you would need to upgrade the stock cable. It goes out into obviously just a standard 3.5 millimeter. But let's get into some of the technical specs and the audio file side of it. I'll just touch on it for a little bit before I move on to the gaming side. These both have 8 balanced armature drivers in each IEM. So these are all balanced armature drivers. There's no dynamic drivers or anything like that. The overall sound signature of the Orchestra Lites are a warm, inviting signature with an emphasis on the mid-range. So the treble is smooth and detailed, and it lacks a little bit of the sparkle and airiness that some people might like, but it's pretty refined and there's really no harsh sibilance in the treble. The mid-range is pretty much where these IEMs shine, is the mid-range. The vocals shine out really well, and instruments have a natural organic texture, and the presentation is very forward with a sense of intimacy and presence in the mid-range. The bass, in my opinion, is where the Orchestra Lite kind of falls short, but the bass is surprisingly punchy and authoritative for a balanced armature set. The sub bass has a satisfying rumble, while the mid bass maintains control, avoiding muddiness. There's really no muddiness at all with the bass, and it is relatively punchy. But in my opinion, the bass is where the Orchestra Lites are a little bit weak. For those of you who might prefer a little bit more bass, which is me, I listen to a lot of EDM, hip hop, and I prefer more bassiness in my IEMs, which is an aspect where the Orchestra Lite kind of falls short in my opinion. So yeah, just a very balanced IEM. There's really no excitement though, in my opinion, which is kind of where the Orchestra Lites fall short for music listening, but it really also depends what genre of music you're listening to as well. Obviously, Orchestra Lite is in the name, so if you listen to a lot of orchestra music, instrumentals, vocals, these will be very nice for you. But if you listen to a lot of EDM or bass heavy music like rock, these probably aren't the IEMs for you. So while the Orchestra Lite prioritizes tonality, it doesn't neglect technical performance. The soundstage is not super expansive, but the imaging is super precise and instrument separation is very impressive as well. Especially in less complex tracks, the resolution is a strong point and subtle details in music and games really shines through on the Orchestra Lites. So let's talk about gaming performance. I've been using the Orchestra Lites in Valorant for the past 2 weeks, and these are amazing for Valorant and tactical shooters. The imaging is really, really precise, and even though the soundstage isn't super large, I actually prefer the intimacy that the Orchestra Lites give because it really gives me a sense of urgency when I'm in gunfight. I can really pinpoint whether or not something needs my immediate attention, like if someone's really close to me or if someone's really far away, I can sort of give my priority towards the urgency of those sounds. Shooting high-pitched guns like a Vandal, especially the Prelude to Chaos skin, sometimes on some IEMs can be very sibilant and very fatiguing to the ears, but on the Orchestra Lite, it's not fatiguing at all, and shooting like a Prelude to Chaos, Vandal, or any of high-pitched skin really is just very nice to the ears and not fatiguing whatsoever. So when I upgraded from my Moondrop Arias, which I have right here, I've been using the Moondrop Arias for a couple years now. So moving from the Arias to the Orchestra Lite for gaming, the soundstage on the Orchestra Lites was a lot bigger and the quality as well. I don't know how to explain it. It's sort of like if you're on the Arias, everything you're listening to is sort of under the surface of the water. And then if you switch over to the Orchestra Lites, it's almost like you're above the surface listening to everything. So yeah, huge upgrade in terms of resolution. You can immediately notice the difference when you go from something like the Arias to the Orchestra Lites. The resolution is definitely one of the main things you're going to notice immediately. And then after that is going to be the imaging and then the soundstage. So like I said, the Orchestra Lites have punchy bass, and it's really not overwhelming bass, which I actually think plays a really big part in why they're so good for tac shooters like Valorant, because if you have really rumbly bass, sometimes a lot of that can muddy out a lot of the other sound cues that you might be hearing in-game. But since the Orchestra Lite doesn't have a really muddy bass and it just has a punchy sub bass, this really helps with identifying footsteps and it makes it a lot easier to sort of listen to those audio cues, especially when there's a lot of things going on. Comfort-wise, these IEMs are a lot bigger than my Arias. I don't know if you can tell on camera, but the resin shell is a lot larger and the nozzle as well is bigger. So comfort-wise, I didn't really have any issues with them other than obviously the pressure buildup that I mentioned. They're definitely not as comfortable as my Arias since my Arias are so small. With that being said, I didn't really have any pain either. I could definitely wear these for hours on end, especially with these tips. If you do have smaller ears though, that might be something you want to look out for. These might not be a good fit in your ears if you have super small ears. But yeah, in conclusion, the Orchestra Lites are really good for competitive games. However, I will personally not be keeping these. I'm actually going to be returning these, and the reason is because if I was only using them for like tac shooters and competitive games, I would definitely keep these. But for everyday music listening, especially for the genres that I listen to, these don't really hit the spot for me just because it's a little bit lacking in bass. I would definitely prefer a more exciting sound signature, but obviously sound is subjective and heavily depends on what genre of music you like to listen to. It's a shame because these IEMs are beautiful and they perform really well for tac shooters like Valorant. But for me personally, I'm going to look into some IEMs that are better all-rounders where I can use them and enjoy them for listening to music as well as use them for competitive games as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Those are my thoughts on the kiwi-ears Orchestra Lites. If this video helps you out, make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.